a turnout this size for something like this 15 or 20 or 30 years ago. And I think we've really reached a turning point. I'm Rob Bloor. I am the host of Florida This Week in WEDU, and also before we start, I'd like to recognize a few people who are in the audience. We have 3 members of the Tampa City Council. That is pretty extraordinary. We have Reverend Tom Scott, we have Mary Mulhern, and we have Linda Salsena. Mary Mulhern, Linda Salsena. And we also have here the Hillsborough Clerk of Courts, Pat Frank. Pat, welcome. Carl Lindell is here. Carl is the Secretary-Treasurer of the Tampa Port Authority. Carl. And we've got John Rodriguez, who is a staffer at Representative Mike Shanti's office. John? Thanks, John. Thank you for coming. Hello to my good friend Patrick Mantega of La Caseta. A little bit in our schedule and introduce Congressman William Delahunt, who is from the Cape Cod area of Massachusetts, and he is also the sponsor of major legislation that would open up trade with Cuba. Congressman, you're on the speakerphone with about 145 people or so at the Italian Club in Tampa. Thank you for coming on with us.
Well, I wish, and I know I wish I could be there in person, and I know that sentiment is shared by my good friend and colleague from Kansas, Jerry Moran, who is also on this call.
Can you tell us what the status of your legislation on Cuba is right now?
Well, the legislation that myself and Congressman Moran introduced is 160 co-sponsors. By any American, not simply members of the Cuban American community who have family there, would move restrictions just exclusively on Cuban Americans going back to Cuba. At this time, in the process, during the course of the previous term, we had 28 co-sponsors. Now, some 2 years later, after the President issued the executive order ending restrictions on Cuban Americans, the bill that Jerry and I have filed that remove all restrictions on any American have 160 co-sponsors. I simply did not remove the caps in terms of the numbers of trips that Cuban Americans could make back to Cuba. It allows Cuban Americans to go anytime they want, for any reason they want, and in addition, there is no longer any limit on the remittances, which had been capped again by the previous administration.
Alfredo Duran and Tony Martinez. Tony Martinez is an attorney known for having a good pulse on U.S.-Cuba polling data. He's an advisor, or has been an advisor to Governor Bill Richardson of New Mexico on U.S.-Cuba relations. And also here is Alfredo Duran. And Alfredo is the former chair of the Florida Democratic Party. He's a lawyer practicing in Miami. He was the chair of the party from 1976 to 1980, but perhaps most famously, he's a former member of the Bay of Pigs invasion. He was a former prisoner of war.
Good morning, everyone. As I begin this, people ask me how I got involved in the Cuba space, and I will share something with you. I went to Cuba for the first time 10 years ago, and the second day that I was in Havana, I had a dream. And it was a very nice dream. And I dreamed the day the United States and Cuba restored relations. And in the dream, I saw Air Force One parked at Jose Marti Airport with thousands of Cubans waving Cuban and American flags with tears in their eyes, with an expression that a giant weight had been lifted off their shoulders. And that was an inspiration for me to work for a noble cause, because it's very easy to destroy things, to break things down, but it's much more noble and much more challenging to work for peace. And so this has been my passion, and I've taken my experience as an attorney and working with the Congress to work to make this happen.
About Cuba policy and the embargo, I say I will never do it again, and here I am again. It is a compelling theme that has impacted on the island of Cuba and the people of Cuba for the past 50 years. It is a policy, the embargo policy, that not a single person believes that works. Those who support it because they have nothing else to support. They have no plan, they have no theory, but they know that it hasn't worked. They know that, in fact, probably the single thing that has kept Cuba from evolving into a democratic process is the embargo. The embargo has maintained the status quo. The embargo has evolved the reasons why we had the embargo. It began because of the confiscation of American properties by the Cuban government. It then continued to the involvement of Cuba with the Soviet Union. Then it changed that the embargo, we had to have it because of the involvement of Cuba in the African wars. Then because of the dissidents. Then because of the commercialization of Cuba with the rest of the world. The embargo has evolved, but the policy has stayed still. And so has the political process in Cuba. There's nothing that Cuba loves more than the embargo. It's the thing that keeps that government from moving in a direction or being forced to move in a direction that makes sense. The reason that has happened is because the government of Cuba says the reason that we cannot change, the reason that we have to have restrictions, the next reason why we cannot have an open society is because we are at war with the United States. And a country that is at war cannot have that type of opening. And the reason that they are at war is because no friendly country embargoes another friendly country. Therefore, we are at war, and they justify all the policies within Cuba because of the embargo. They justify all the failures within Cuba because of the embargo. They justify the lack of civil rights in Cuba because of the embargo. And that embargo is what has kept that government in place for the past 50 years. And still we have Cubans who support the embargo. Seems weird, but we do have them. And they know that it doesn't work. To absolutely believing that the only way that we're going to resolve that process is by opening, by the United States opening, by travel to Cuba, by Americans traveling to Cuba, by trade, by Cuban Americans sending all the funds and all the money that they can to their relatives in Cuba to make the government irrelevant in the life of those Cubans that receive money from their relatives. When you have a government that you need to go to them for every aspect of your life, the moment that you make that government irrelevant, the status quo begins to change. And that is what's going to happen in the Cuban society when Cuban Americans en masse start going over, en masse start sending funds for their family. They will make that government irrelevant in the life of the Cubans. And that's what we need.